today we're lucky enough to have Adrian O'Brien, Director of Marketing and Communications with Midnight Sun Mining. Trades on the TSX Venture Exchange with the ticker MMA. You got quite the ticker.
I know. That's an easy one to remember. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. No grounding and pounding that one. We got to own that one.
That's it.
Well, anyways, we're speaking here. We find ourselves at the beautiful Dolder Grand Resort Hotel in Zurich for the SMI, the Swiss Mining Institute Conference, November 2024. Thanks for spending a bit of time with us. Maybe before we get in talking about Midnight Sun, a little bit about your background.
For sure. So I have been in the mining sector for, I think, going into my 28th year, which is ridiculous. So I started in high school.
You look like you're about 28. So.
Well, that's really kind of you, but yeah, no, not quite there. But started in high school. I actually worked for a junior mining company in high school. Stayed in the business my entire life. And this has been, I've worked everything from investor relations when I started out, all the way up to CEO, spent a lot of time running companies, building companies, projects all over the world. Was a director of the PDAC for some time.
Oh, wow.
Through various different projects at every stage you could imagine, right up to, discovery all the way through to production, and then joined this group, a couple of years ago now. So, I've kind of covered the gambit, and I've been in this sector for so long. I've seen lots of changes and good markets and bad markets, and you learn a lot through the process, right?
Absolutely. Well, now let's get into a little bit about Midnight Sun.
Sure.
Where are you going after? What stage are you at? Where's your project or projects?
Sure.
Give a bit of an overview.
So we are working in an area called the Domes region of Zambia. So Zambia, of course, one of the top districts in the world for copper. And the Zambia-Congo copper belt's well known, right? Straddles the DRC border. And there's some big ones. I mean, Ivanhoe's Kamoa-Kakula, it's right above us.
Yeah.
Barrick's Lumwana mine, it's right next to us on the west flank. And of course, First Quantum's Kansanshi mine is 6 kilometers away. So we're literally surrounded by the 5 biggest copper mines in Zambia, some of the biggest producers in all of Africa, the number 1 producer in Africa, which is Kansanshi. But it's a really neat jurisdiction. And I would say, you could look at different jurisdictions globally right now for copper exploration. No question that the Domes region of Zambia would fall right at the top of the list. Reason being, not only do you have every major player in the copper sector there, on the ground, working, going after these projects, but it's about the geology. The average deposit in this belt is about 1 billion tons. So if you want projects that actually have a large enough capacity to have global impact, there's very few places in the world that you can find a 1 billion ton deposit, let alone a district where they're all 1 billion tons, right? So they have high grade, they're shallow, and they're big. They're very, very big. And most importantly, it's a jurisdiction where if you find it, you can build it. Very mining friendly, totally pro mining. 75% of their export earnings are copper. This is the place to be. So we're really fortunate. I mean, it took us 14 years of going through tough times and tough markets to stick with it and get it to this point. But now we're there, we've put all the pieces in place, and we're going forward with this thing.
And maybe you could explain the ownership. Do you own 100% of the project? Do you have a joint venture partner?
Yeah, so it's our project. We've been there, as I mentioned. We optioned the project over 10 years ago. So the majority of the project's 100% owned. One piece of the property is 85% owned, but will be eventually 100% owned as we go through that process of diluting the original owner. We are basically bringing 2 strategics in simultaneously on 2 different facets. So what we're doing is basically, our strategy was, we have 4 targets for a stratabound deposit. That's one of these 1 billion ton deposits. So we took our top target and we did a deal with KoBold Metals, which is getting a lot of attention. It's backed by Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos.
Right.
And, lots of attention. So we brought those guys in, and we did an earn-in agreement on that target, which is called Dumbwa. And they're spending $15.5 million to earn 75% of that target. We'll have a 25% contributing interest going forward. Secondarily, we did a deal with First Quantum. We're calling it a cooperative exploration plan, and that is a plan to mine oxide copper on our property. So first we're outlining the resources, we're coming up with a production plan and timing, and the goal is to put oxide copper from our property through the Kansanshi mine's oxide circuit and solve their oxide issue for the next, hopefully, 7 to 10 years. So that'll make us a near-term producer within the next 12 months if we're successful.
And so you right now you're delineating the resources for that?
We are,
so
yeah.
You're doing a bunch of drilling?
We are. So there's kind of 2 areas of our property. So again, I mentioned that the property's built out into kind of 4 targets. So we have 4 of these big stratabound targets, and on 2 of those properties, one is called Kaziba, and it's in the sort of the northwest corner of our property. The other is called Me2, and that's the southwest corner of our property. Both of those have these really high concentrations of high-grade copper oxide at surface. In the case of Kaziba, we have 31 drill holes. So they're early stage drill holes. We're going back and confirming that, but 31 drill holes that basically give you, a starting point of 3 or 4 million tons, based on kind of back of the envelope math, that would get us a 1.3% average grade. So when you start looking at the size and the scale of what we hope to do there, 1.3%, if we can build that out to, let's call it 10 million tons or more, that gives Kansanshi something, or First Quantum something they can produce at Kansanshi for the next 2 or 3 years. And if they're doing 25,000 tons a day at 1%, 80 million pounds of copper a year, something along those lines. And then further down at Me2, that target seems to be kind of 30 to 50 million tons, or that's a kind of range that we're hoping to aim for as a target. Little bit lower grade, 0.8% from early testing that we've done, but something that we can build out. So the idea is these are all early stage, they're pre-43-101, there's no resource there yet. But what we have is a lot of high-grade drill intercepts that show us that the material's there, that it's at surface, it has no strip. This is material, it's like scraping the icing off a cake. So you're getting this material at surface, and it sits right on the haul road to First Quantum's Kansanshi mine. It's 6 kilometers away. So let's let First Quantum mine that. And just to kind of, not to go too long on this, but to expand on it so that it makes sense. At First Quantum's Kansanshi mine, they have 3 circuits. A sulfide circuit, a mixed ore circuit, and an oxide circuit. And for 20 years, they've been neutralizing acid from their smelter. Their smelter produces about 1.2, 1.3 million tons of sulfuric acid a year. It's a huge environmental liability. You have to neutralize it. So they use the oxide copper and they heap leach it with the sulfuric acid, which neutralizes the acid and unlocks a $300 to $400 million a year revenue stream. They've run out of oxides though, and the only supply in the area is us.
Ah, very handy.
Nice place to be.
Nice place to be. Yeah. Very well located. So we've heard a little bit about the project and projects and targets.
Yeah.
So you got 4 of them. A nice place to be. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the cap structure. How many shares are out?
For sure. So Midnight Sun has been around, as I mentioned, for 10 or 12 years. I think it's 12 years now. We have 165 million shares out, which is actually great. The company's done a great job of protecting the share structure and making sure that everything stayed intact. So 165 million shares out. We've got about 58 million warrants that are spread between 33 and 50 cents. We expect the exercise of a bunch of those. We've actually been getting a lot of warrants exercised as of recently. So that's another influx of cash. So currently we've got about 17% institutional ownership. It's a big goal of ours over the last 24 months to institutionalize this deal. We had some help from Red Cloud, and we put together a nice initial institutional ownership now. So we have about 17% institutional, all Canadian funds. Then on top of that, we have a very large distribution of retail shareholders and different firms around. But basically, a little bit over 200 million fully diluted, and really well positioned. But if you look at the company historically, $15 million market cap for a very long time, $20 million market cap for a very long time. In the last 12 months, even the last 6 months, we've gone from a $20 million market cap to a $110 million market cap. It's come back down to around 80 million. So we trade around 75 to $80 million market cap. Stock trades between 40 and 50 cents. And good liquidity and everything. So we've really kind of positioned everything now. Everything's ready to go, but a lot of big catalysts on the near-term horizon. So,
you think you'll need to raise capital in the next 12 months?
We don't. We're fully funded. Yeah. So we raised 10 million in May. Again, going back to that plan with First Quantum, if we're successful, we can delineate those resources and get them into production at Kansanshi. We're going to see cash flow in 12 months. So we'll actually have a production scenario that'll kick in about a year from now. And so our goal was to use the deal with KoBold to develop the big stratabound targets, to get the any resources outlined with First Quantum, get production started on oxides, and use that cash flow to develop the 3 other targets on our property. But in order to do all of that, of course, we wanted to raise some money and have some runway. So we started out raising 3.3 million in March of last year. By the time it closed, we were at 10, and we had to close the book. So
nice.
$10 million.
Very successful. So would you say that you provide unique leverage to the copper price?
Definitely. I mean, this is a really unique situation, and in that, I know you've been in the market a long time. I've been in the market a very long time, and it's so rare that you see a near-term producer as a junior.
Yeah.
And to have the kind of exploration upside we have, as well as having this near-term production angle, it puts us in this very, very tiny category, very, very small number of companies that end up in that position. And in talking about leverage to copper price, I mean, how many jurisdictions are there in the world today that have copper deposits the kind of size we're talking about in Zambia, right? And you have to look at, I like to talk about the low-hanging fruit, talk about porphyry deposits and what kind of pipeline there is right now for projects to come on stream. Most of these are 5 to 10 years out. Okay, we're talking about something that could be in production in 12 months. And then on top of that, if you find something in Zambia, because they're shallow, they're open pit, they're much, much easier to move forward and much quicker pipeline to production. So, in terms of leverage to copper price, this is one of the best scenarios you could have.
Right. Well, 5 to 10 years isn't too long. There's other jurisdictions where it's a lot longer than that. And
So
I
true.
don't know about you, but with my own portfolio, I'm trying to provide, maximum leverage to these climbing metal prices. And
For
it
sure.
seems like you got to get a little closer to the possibility that you actually might make revenue from actually producing
Yes.
that type of metal.
Totally.
So that's a unique proposition for you.
It is.
In terms of attending a conference like this, what are a couple of things that you're hoping to accomplish?
Well, there's a plethora of these conferences to choose from, right? Yeah, I know over the years you've attended a lot of these yourself.
Yeah.
The people at Bally's do it like nobody else. This is a really fantastic conference. There's some really great ones to choose from, but in terms of what they're putting together here, it's a really well curated group of investors. And what we're looking to do, our goal is a little bit different, again, because we're fully funded. We're looking for on-market equity. We're looking for people that are going to step into the open market and build a position, whether it's funds, whether it's institutional backing. And so, we hope to step into a conference like this, looking for that exposure, looking for new investors. And when you have a group like Bally's that goes out and these folks know how to put together a really beautiful curated list of investors for you. And so it really helps to accomplish our goals.
Well, I showed up at 7 a.m. this morning. The conference didn't start till a couple hours later, but there was a lineup. It was packed. It looked like 1:30 at a Cactus Club Friday afternoon here. So they clearly have some interest.
Oh, that's great.
Which is great to see. What are a couple of sort of milestones that investors should look for over the next, say, 6 months?
Yeah, a couple of things coming up. So I mentioned that we, of course, have this plan with First Quantum. So under that cooperative exploration plan, they put forth a geological team and they put forth an engineering team in order to put a program together. So we launched a program in Zambia, starting to do some work on our property. So I think the goal here is to look for results from the programs we're going to be running in Zambia on Kaziba and Me2. We'll be moving that whole plan forward with First Quantum, so some milestones around that. And then in the new year, of course, going into, there's a rainy season in Zambia, it's about 3 months long. So following that rainy season, we'll be kicking off programs at Dumbwa. So that's our deal with KoBold. More work at Kaziba, work at Me2. So it's going to be results. It's going to be a lot of aggressive work in the field. So we've got a lot coming up here in the next 6 months or so. It's going to be super, super busy.
Well, excellent. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. I'll let you get back on your schedule of meetings. Thanks. Very nice to meet you finally there,
Excellent to
Adrian.
meet you too, yeah.
And thank you for your time, and we'll look to follow your story on a continued basis.
Excellent. Really appreciate it.